by Chief Jegna Haru Yuya Asan Anu. Some of the components of Anu Nation are A New Life Global Ministries, Enlightenment and Transformation, Sadulu House, and Osiris Life Spiritual Services. SaduluHouse.com is the school component of Anu Nation, where spiritual empowerment through education and training is emphasized. One way that is accomplished is through our monthly webinars. Our webinars are packed with foundational information, rituals, and live instruction to empower your spiritual work. At SaduluHouse.com, you can view our diverse list of topics for this year that range from meditation to sex magic. And you can also register for any of the webinars at your convenience, sign up for our introductory Orisha class, schedule a spiritual reading, and sign up for the Anu Spiritual Training course. Enlightenment and Transformation is the media component of Anu Nation. Here, you can view all of our archived shows from over the years to our current segments. They include Chief Speaks, Masterminds Monday, Anu Asafo, Thunderground Thursdays, and Foundational Fridays. You can also visit us on our YouTube channels. They are Enlightenment and Transformation, Orisha Yoruba, and Anu Nation. Osiris Life Spiritual Services is for those who are ready to take the necessary actions to bring your life into holistic balance. Here we offer consistent monthly one-on-one coaching, solutions that are tailored just for you, practical hands-on self-development techniques that will accompany your monthly readings, and customized practical strategies designed for you that guarantee positive results. Simply choose the package that best fits your needs. And last but not least, AlphaOmegaStore.com. The Alpha Omega Store is our online botanica where we offer divination tools, herbs and incense, DVDs, books, and other hard-to-find ritual items. You can also get our best-selling foundational book, Grasping the Root of Divine Power. Other great works from Anu Nation are Shrine and Altar, Solutions for Dysfunctional Family Relationships, and Natural Hair for Young Women. All great books to assist you on your journey. To find out more on how to get involved with Anu Nation, visit our websites and YouTube channels and be sure to sign up for our monthly newsletter.
Sadulu House, spiritual education for a spiritual life. Spiritual classes for education and empowerment.
Welcome to the 2017 Anu Phase 1 Challenge. Phase 1 is all about ministry to self. Some areas you'll gain control of by doing the work in this training include aligning with your life purpose, gaining knowledge, wisdom, and understanding of what your inner community represents, determining your spiritual allies, properly setting up altars, performing divination, and working through areas of your ego that have been getting in the way of harmonious growth. In the student forum on SaduluHouse.com, you'll find a schedule to keep you on track during this challenge, and you'll want to check in often because as we progress through the modules, you'll see a new video released providing insight and expectations for that module. This Anu Phase 1 Challenge is all about the student collective around the world working together to cheer one another on as we complete Phase 1 prior to the new year in June. There will be a celebratory event you do not want to miss. We'll be acknowledging all those who have successfully completed this phase while learning more on how to get involved with Anu Ministries. For those who haven't yet purchased Anu Phase 1 training and feel called to participate, we invite you to go to SaduluHouse.com, click the store option, and enroll today. Log in now to Sadulu House. Join us in the student forum to share your experiences, post your questions and comments. Let's build. Let's build. Let's build.
Peace, everyone. Welcome to another segment of KMunity. Actually, I know I went out for a second there. Sorry about that. But this is Chief Yuya speaking, and you are all listening again to the KMunity segment on enlightenment and transformation. I want to welcome all of you who are called in live, who are slowly piling in to the phone lines, and certainly those of you who are tuning in from the YouTube live stream. and those of you who will be coming in later from the archives. I just welcome you all to this experience where we get to share, but not only share, to, in many senses, validate the sacredness of our journey and the primacy in our lives and the urgency and the critical mass that surrounds our own divine Nia, or our divine purpose. So, welcome to that opportunity for confirmation for us all. I want to give you the calling number. It's 515-605-9862. You can listen that way, or if you want to speak, you can also use that number as well. Just hit the number 1. Greetings to you as well, Miss Stone. And, for those who are coming in through the chat, of course, peace to you all as well. But again, if you want to share, speak, whatever, you can utilize that that method of calling in. Again, it's 515-605-9862, and you just need to hit the number 1 in order to be heard. All right. So I don't know if this is because my audio is bad or because someone wants to share, but I'm going to bring them in. 303, you're on Community.
Peace to the chief.
Hey,
how you
peace,
doing,
brother? I'm all right. How you doing?
Man, things are well. You on the radio, man, it's even that much better.
Okay, all right. Is that a real well, or is that a courteous well?
We're going to do both.
Okay, cool. Well, that's we can combine them. Mix them up a little bit.
I wanted to share, and I also wanted to. First, have you seen that movie Get Out?
No, not yet. Everyone's telling me I need to check it out. I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, okay. Well, I had seen it, and I know you. Like in the movie Get Out, and I was thinking about the movie Drop Squad, and the tactile efforts that each one of them had used to do what they needed to get done. Okay. And in both of the movies, one of them would use brain power, the other one would use like brute force. And I was thinking, is that coming from a paradigm where one has been bred for just brute muscle, while the other one was used, to use their brain, and then now since you have the muscle and I have the brain, I just want to use the muscle, and we just bred you just to really, use your physical features.
Are you comparing the two movies? Or are you saying specifically in one of them you had a character that used brute force and another one that used intellectualism?
I'm comparing them in a way that, in the Drop Squad, they would use force, right, brute force, to come in to grab them up. Mm-hmm. Whereas in Get Out, it was more of, we playing chess. So we're not going to hem you up. We're not going to do it. We're going to play with your mind to get you in to get what you want. Is that like a process from breeding, whereas one wasn't used for their mind? Then we just want your muscle. So therefore now, as the time goes on, you just keep using muscle to try to get done what you need to get done, when in essence that's not working, while the other group is using straight brain power to get done what they want to get done.
I would say so to an extent, absolutely. A lot of times in this struggle, we still have this mentality of like tanks flooding the street, people coming and barricading in your homes, or corralling you into a Walmart parking lot and using that as a FEMA detention work camp, citizen work camp. We have those type of ideas without realizing the perpetuation of the idea itself creates the restrainment. So if you're afraid of the King Alfred plan and you're going to be sectioned off in a certain way, or there's going to be tanks flooding the street, and that's all you talk about, all you think about, then no one really needs to expend the brute force or the resources it would take to put those tanks in the street. Because it's a lot of gas. It's expensive to run a tank. We don't really need to do that if we already have instilled that ideation in your mind. You've already contained yourselves in the sense that you don't leave your neighborhoods. Some of you don't even leave your blocks. for years, don't even go off the block. And then if you do leave your state or your neighborhood, you go to a neighborhood just like where you came from. So that's a form of containment. As the late great Dr. Khalid Muhammad used to say, you go from dot to dot to dot. So America is almost mapped out like different dot plantations, almost in a sense. And even though you think I'm going to Atlanta, or you're going to another hood in Atlanta. All right, I'm gonna go to Chicago. I'm gonna go to another hood in Chicago. I'm gonna go to LA, another hood in LA. So yeah, absolutely, I would agree that the game is psychological. It's always been psychological, and there's a brutality to it. But the truth is, the majority of the brutal tactics that are used against us are used by our own. They're used by people of our own skin. Of course, we film and we document when policy agents and death troopers shoot us down in the streets, but we shoot each other a lot. A lot. We stab each other a lot. We beat each other up a lot. So when you speak about the difference between the psychological game and the physical game, you have different pawns on the chessboard. So yeah, the pawns, we're going to have you going and beat each other up. We'll use you to do that to each other, but we'll pull the strings from the back. So we're controlling the brutality even that you wage against one another. So yeah, it's definitely I think there's a combination. If you were to, I guess, smash the two movies together, there's a combination of dual tactic being used, and the best thing to do is to always kill the head of the snake, and the head is going to kill the psychology first, as opposed to trying to fight the body. You try to fight the body, that's just not, you're not going to get anywhere with that. And then you gotta know how to kill the head, because if you cut that head wrong, it might grow back 2 heads or 4 heads. Now you got a different type of issue. So you might actually have to poison the snake, and let it die slowly. You might have to inject your agenda as a form of counterculture into that snake that's trying to destroy your people. If they love your music so much, utilize your music. I mean, Ice-T said this once. I think that was like one of the most powerful things he's ever said. Because, he was never much of a rapper, but he said that in the song. I think it was We All in the Same Gang, nonviolent song that came out back in the days. And it was a quick line in there. But he said, just imagine this, if we took our enemies, and we basically said, if we took this music to kill them instead of killing us. So reverse hypnosis, basically. So yeah.
How much of that goes into what you were saying with the reward system of just rewarding your own, but then how a group really is not rewarded for using your brain? You're rewarded for becoming an athlete, or you're rewarded for, working into into a system. Whereas those who go on their own path, you're not really rewarded. You just, or if you just want to use your brain, and we don't really listen to this cat. We go back over here because this is where it's at.
Well, the truth is, we are rewarded for using our brain. It's just we're rewarded when we use our brain for the perpetuation of the dominant system. We always get rewarded for that. We're rewarded for being good students in public school. We're rewarded even in church. We're rewarded spelling bees and little contests in church and stuff like that. A lot of times churches even have scholarships set up. Well, they'll send us, they usually don't have business grants set up. You can't go to your church and apply for a business grant, but you definitely can get a little, $500 or whatever to go to a college or university. So, the thing is, everybody wants top quality slaves, and that has never changed. It was like that years ago, and it's like that today. We always have this image and this vision that's given to us that we were just somewhere picking tobacco and cotton and just walking around as a bunch of dullards. And the only reason that we rose up because we was just sick and tired of it. Or somebody raped our wives and we selflessly said, okay, this got to stop. And that is the furthest thing from the truth. People were hand selected to serve certain positions. And the truth is, especially if you were a trader in human commodity, the more skilled that commodity was, the more money you would get on the auction block. So the more degrees you have, the more I can sell you for. You got your master's, you have your PhD. Okay, I'm gonna get more money for you. So I teach you carpentry, or really you come over already knowing carpentry. That's really what it is. You came on a boat knowing those things, and plumbing, because we had plumbing. That wasn't something, we didn't just get toilets when we came here on this land, but the plumbing, the electrical work, the carpentry, the blacksmithing, just you go even the cattle raising, the farming, the agriculture, the agrarian aspect, all of that. I mean, those are things that made us more desirable, more highly skilled, and allowed for someone else to just sit back and do even less. Even the accounting aspect. Everyone thinks, oh, we wasn't allowed to read and write. That wasn't true. That wasn't true at all. So a lot of times the story is a little flip-flopped and wrong, and they keep the story at a certain level so you never can realize how diabolical that system actually is. So you're taught, yeah, my ancestors just had to go into the fields and do hard labor. Yes, some of them did, absolutely. But some of them also were skilled workers, and they were sent out. That's where you have freedom papers. You would get a note. You can go to this plantation. You'll be rented out. Go over here, do this work, be back by this time. So in order to do that, you have to have been traveling with some type of skill. So it's deeper than the physical aspect, and a lot of times some of our lecturers or whatever, they stay in that space because that's a part of the program. So even when we wake up to our Black liberation consciousness, a lot of times the allegiance to those foreign tongue gods are still present. We don't realize it. So even when we pumping our fist in the air, there's always like it's like a like an electronic leash that still stops you from really doing that next thing that is really going to institute that change. So but you'll pump your fist, you'll play with that line, and you really think you're doing something because consciously you don't see or feel the leash consciously, but subconsciously something tells you, don't go there. Don't, that would be too much. No, don't take it that far. So that's a part of the psychological aspect. So honestly, the brute force, I mean, we bang against each other way harder than we bang against any dominant system. And that's a part of the programming, and we're brilliant now. We've read a lot of books, watched a lot of documentaries. We're skilled. We're brilliant. But again, it's that chip, that's electronic leash. That foot collar that you got from your PO that goes off if you go outside of a certain perimeter. Is still very much active. So we flood the hoods with conscious, deep information and shouting and all of that, but we don't take that into the suburbs. We don't go on the subway platforms in the rich neighborhoods. We keep that on 125th Street. We flood all this deep information nobody can find. You can't get this anywhere, but it's only in the hood. Afraid to really step outside. That was one of the beauties of El Hajj Malik El Shabazz, going into environments. And of course he had to do that to generate money and, for the cause, but he went into environments where we weren't really and shared that information fearlessly. In fact, the late, great Dr. Khalid Muhammad did the same exact thing. I remember being on security detail with him and him doing a lecture one time, and we got invited somewhere afterwards, and he was like, no, we're out. And the thing that we were invited to was like, it would have been a very enjoyable time for us, and he was like, listen, brothers, when you drop a bomb, you leave. And I never forgot that. I never forgot that wisdom. He said, once you drop a bomb, when you go and you don't stand around and watch, you leave the area. So what he was referring to, of course, I got to clear that up because, we on public airways. When he was, what he was referring to as the bomb was like the information that he had just dropped in that environment. We were at a university, and he was referring to how impacting the information was that he just shared. So he's like, no, we don't hang around and party now. You shake the spot. So a lot of that element is missing in terms of getting into those external environments. And for those who do, most time they ain't talking about nothing. They're not really saying anything that's going to change anything. That they're regurgitating the same rhetoric that's not going to do much of anything. Because a lot of times, again, it's that subconscious fear. Sometimes it's just fear that your money's going to be messed with. They're going to mess with my money. So, there's a lot to that.
Give thanks, Chief. Always
sure.
appreciate it.
For sure, brother. For sure. Yeah, man. I'll check out that movie soon enough. I never like to check out stuff when it comes out. I don't like to look at stuff when everybody else is looking at it. I'm a real paranoid type of brother like that. So,
okay. Is there a deeper meaning behind that? Or you just don't like to?
Yeah, I just don't like to go with the herd. Because a lot of times, whatever. And I know the movie was done by the brother Jordan Peele from Key and Peele. I love Key and Peele. They're hilarious. You know what I mean? But anything that's a smash, I'm just like I run against the crowd. Anything that's a smash to the masses, to me, is always suspect. And if I'm going to inject a poison or something or any type of hypnotic psyops into something, I'm going to do it in a space where most people are. So I'm the type that will wait. Like I'll give you a good example. I just saw The Wire for the first time last year. I never saw one episode, not a trailer, not a nothing, until last year. And partly because I don't really like drug or prison stuff too much, but or anything when the cops win at the end. I hate stuff where the cops catch the bad guys. It sickens me to my stomach. So especially when they make the cops seem like extra brilliant. They go into an apartment and they see a hair. Look at this. This is a hair from an albino Eskimo. Well, let's run it through the system. How many albino Eskimos do we have in Baltimore? Well, there's Leaky D down on it. And then they go to somebody with some fake hood accent. My man Leaky D down on the east side, he's an albino. But then there's Fizzy Womack from the north. He's swinging a lot of slang bang. You make up their own little TV slang and stuff. You're like, come on, man. Knock it off. You know what I'm saying? So I really don't believe it. So I saw it for the first time like last year. So Get Out, I'm going to check it, but I'm checking in my own time. Now, Birth of a Nation, I did go and, I went into the theaters, got my ticket, and bought a bunch of tickets for other people, but again, it wasn't a mass type of movement type of thing, man. But yeah, that's really just what it's about. Whatever the masses are doing, I don't do it with them. Whatever they're cheering for, I don't cheer for. If they're looking to the right, I look to the left, because I know this society is built upon misdirection. So I'm always, I'm looking at the magician's other hand. Like, what's he? Nah, I ain't looking at the dove. He threw the dove up in there. What's he doing over here? So yeah, man, that's all it is.
Right. Even when I was watching it, it's almost like people are like, okay, yeah, it brings awareness. But I'm like, I think people are fully aware of what's going on at this point in time. Now it's like, what are you going to do about it?
Right.
Everybody, it's a good learning tool. Oh, you know it already. Like,
exactly.
Even if I look back on there's old writings that people was talking about, people are finally waking up. This is in the 70s. Well, at what point in time people are going to actually do something about it?
Right. Because we've been waking up for a long time. We've been waking up we've been waking up since the 20s. People forget that like one of the first metaphysical movements in the black community came about in the 20s through a Father Divine. That was when they came up with that song, "If You're Happy and You Know It, Clap Your Hands." Now we think about it and we think it's something like just a little kid's nursery rhyme. But what they were exploring with at that time was if you can project the idea of happiness, then it will return back to you. He was dealing with the laws of attraction. He was also the one who started using the word peace to greet people. People think they started that in the 60s with the hippies. And then some people think it was the Nation of Gods and Earths. It was actually Father Divine in the 20s. You know, and they would say peace as a means to project outward what they wanted inward. So, I mean, you know, and he had millions of followers. Little short stuttering black man. You know what I mean? So we've been waking up. This ain't, you know, ain't nothing new. That's what I'm saying. It's that electronic leash. The information is not really the deal now. You know, we have a love for information. And just because you have a love for something doesn't necessarily mean that thing that you have a love for, you apply the tenets of it. You know, some people like looking at bodies, looking at muscular bodies, but it doesn't mean that they're necessarily going to go try to get a muscular body. You know, but they have a love for the human form. You know, so that's what a lot of this has really become. So, you know, I heard people saying, because I ran into someone last night, him and his wife, and they had just saw it, and they were like, yo, it was sold out, and we had to wait for the next show, and it was really good, man. And I'm like, all right, I'm you know how we get, you know, all excited.
Right.
And I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna check it. You know, I didn't want to get into the whole, wait till y'all done with it, then I'll come check it. You know what I mean? But I was like, yeah, I'm gonna check it out. I know it has something to do with white women kidnapping a black man and something, whatever. I don't know. But I do know the director's mother is white. So, you know.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's kind of.
And his wife. And
his wife, right. So that's what I look at. And I say, okay, well, what the heck is going on here then? Because what is he really saying? You know, and again, I'm not trying to knock legs from underneath the brother, because it's just like when the Nate Parker thing came out, everyone, oh, you got a Spanish or white, whatever they want to call her wife, and they use that to discredit the film. I'm not saying that. You know, I am going to go see the film. It probably is a great film, but I'm going to wait till people are done with it. You know what I mean? That's just how I move, man. I'll tell you another thing. I just started watching the Harry Potter films last month. I saw the first one last month, and I think the first one came out like 2010, 8, or maybe even earlier, something like that. But I have the books. I read the books from before, but I never saw the films. You know, because when I read the books, I was like, yo, this is actually real stuff. Because I'm halfway decent with some of the geomancy and more so not the geomancy, but the Latin. And I'm looking at some of these words. I'm like, nah, these are real words that we use in ceremonial magic. So when the movies came out, I was like, nah, I'm good. Y'all enjoy that. You know, when I do watch the movie, it'll be in my own home in a well-lit room. You know, like it's going to be no programming going on up in here whatsoever. You know, I'll be on an empty stomach. You're not programming nothing, and you know, eyes wide open. So I just started watching them like last month. Yeah.
Yeah, I seen the movie. I see. I'm gonna do the reverse of what you do, brother. I'm gonna read the book after I watch the movie.
Okay.
And then it'll give me a deeper perspective.
Yeah, I mean, you know, there's different ways you can go about it. You know, like I said, I'm kind of a, you know, I'm funny style like that. I'm a little paranoid. Everybody, you know, you don't have to necessarily go in for that, man. But I just, you know, my mind is just a little, you know, I'm always in combat mode. So I'm a little paranoid when it comes to stuff like that. Movies and everybody's looking at this. Everybody the new craze. I'm out. I don't want it. I'm over here. You know, I'll catch up later. So that's just how I am.
Right.
Yeah, man. That's just how I am. I like to stay out of the fray. You know, no crowded spaces. Yeah, man.
Okay. Well, I just thought it was interesting, man. Like people are, oh, this is how they see you. Okay, so what? That's how they see you. Now what? Like, what are you gonna do about it? I guess that's why I'm coming to a space now. It's just like, oh yeah, they ask you like Tiger Woods. Yeah, okay, that's how they see you. Now what? So what?
Who's the they? You talking about white people?
And if you were caught up, yeah. So they're talking about, oh yeah, and you know, and they basically, I'm not to give too much of it away.
Oh, I don't really care. Like it doesn't. Yeah, I mean, I guess for the people listening, yeah, maybe people haven't watched it. I know it's something
Yeah,
with
but
a
they
white
basically
woman.
was
She
just sizing.
kidnaps black men or something like that, right?
That who?
I know it's something to the effect that a white woman and her daughter or something like that kidnaps black men.
Right.
Okay.
And bring them over there and basically auctioning a man off. And then they're just sizing them up like, oh, do you have a big piece? Do you have, are you a fighter? Do you play like Tiger Woods and all of this, that, and the third. Basically just sizing a man up the whole time before they bid on him.
Okay, well, I mean.
And then they were like, okay, right, that's why I'm like, okay, so they see you like, well, what are you doing? Why are you so worried about how other people perceive you, or should you be more worried about how you perceive yourself?
Well, I guess this supports the argument. You know what I mean? That's why you need to stay away from them white women. I guess that's basically what's being said, because that's a lot of what I'm hearing behind it. But I mean, Jeffrey Dahmer was doing that back in the early 90s. And like 95%, the majority, I think he only had like 1 or 2 white victims. The majority of his victims were black men. And he was luring them back to his apartment, and, he would drug them and then cut them up and eat them. Dining on that penis. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, man. Sausage.
I shouldn't laugh at that.
I'm just saying, it's not FDA approved, but he was going in. So, I mean, that ain't nothing new. And then you had all them lynchings back in the days. First thing they go after is a penis. You know what I mean? I've been with elders who have transitioned before, and I've zipped up several body bags myself because I have a thing with that. And luckily, I've always been at hospitals that have been pretty cool about that, who have let me stay. Because, depending on how the person transitions, a lot of times they may have to clean them off or whatever. And I'll wait for all of that and zip the bag up, everything, because I've been in a space before with an elder, which really brought my attention to it when he was transitioning. I mean, this is minutes before he transitioning. And this is going to sound crazy to the people listening. And, if you are sensitive to graphic information, just hit mute for a little while, but or hang up. Basically, he was transitioning. They had a catheter. I probably said that wrong. I always do. Going through his penis, and I'm looking at the doctor, like eyeing his penis real heavy. And this elder was really dark, and his penis was like down to his knees. He had one of them, long John Silver joints. But I'm looking at the doctor, and I'm like, he's looking at his Johnson. Like I'm like, I see what you're doing. I'm peeping this here. And he ended up transitioning, right? But I'm standing there. I was holding his hand when he transitioned. And one of the things I kept thinking about, like, yo, he's gonna take his penis. He's gonna cut it off and take it. So I stayed there. Like, they were like, oh, you could leave. I was like, nah, I'm good. I'm gonna stay here. And I helped, not help clean them, but when they were done, I kind of looked at them, looked them over, zipped up the bag myself, escorted it down. Now he could have snuck back down to the morgue or something and chopped his joint off. But it's something that made me think. And then I had other instances later where that was kind of always on my mind going forward, that, yeah, just kind of keep an eye on things. So, I mean, like I said, Jeffrey Dahmer was chewing on dudes. And I think it does. And then even, like I said, back to the early lynchings, and that's a part of the Osirian rituals. Take the penis. It's, again, when you listen to the Osirian myths, cut up into 14 pieces, the only one that's not found is the phallus. So those are those Masonic rituals they do. You go back in the back of those temples and jars, you have black men's penises. You know what I mean? So that doctor, like that day, could have been a Mason. So, wow, what a beautiful specimen. I'm going to take this back to the lodge. You'll probably up me a degree. So, it's nothing new per se, but like I said, I guess the premise of the movie was supposed to be a scary movie. So the premise of it, at some point, you have to look at the fantasy aspect of it as well. And then, like I said, the man has got a white mother, and like you said, his wife is white. So what is he really saying? You know what I mean? So I don't know. Right. I think again, that suspension of disbelief can be dangerous at times during movie going experiences and things like that, because you forget that there's a lot of thought that goes behind the creation of these ideas. Sometimes we forget that. Yeah.
And would something get greenlit for that because in essence they know you're gonna watch it but not do anything about it anyway?
Well, you are gonna do something about it, but just on a level that you don't think. Anything that gets greenlit by a major studio, whether it be a music studio or a film studio, is for the purposes of your destruction. Anything. So this movies don't come out to help you. So, that's what I'm saying. And again, I know I may be sounding ultra paranoid and everything like that, but I'm not paranoid. I'm actually informed. So I know who owns these studios and how they operate. So if it's greenlit and you're getting excited and looking at it, it's for a reason. You want to look at the mass reaction. And if you look at the mass reaction and then look at the media reaction, now you see what their original intent was. So now we looking at it and we saying, see, this is what they do. This is how they do. Well, you got to look at everything as a politicized movement. Even the movies that come out, it's all political. So you always want to look at whatever media or art that's coming out and being greenlit and then compare it to whatever's happening in a larger political arena. It's very similar to like when the whole skinny jeans movement popped off back in the early 2000s. The first thing I said, the immediate thing that I said back then, it was two things that happened. Right before that, we have a major station out here in New York called 107.5 WBLS, right? And around that time in the early 2000s, 107.5 went strictly like old school. And every single song they would play was like the Temptations, the Four Tops, and even when they're playing and I'm listening, I'm like, yo, they only playing like the side A for those younger listeners. Like when you had vinyl albums back in the day, they had two different sides you could play the music on, and you had a side A and side B, and side A was usually where the hits were, and side B would be like just the lesser known songs. Nowadays everything is a single, so y'all don't really have that type of culture, but it was always just like My Girl, Just My Imagination, the standards. Marvin Gaye, What's Going On, every 5 minutes. And I'm listening, I'm saying, yo, when they first started doing it, I said, they trying to bring us back to the 60s and the 70s. That's what they're trying to do here. Like, I'm looking at everyone's like, oh, this is nice, man. They playing the oldies. I'm like, not really. Because they ain't playing no political songs. There was some political stuff. They're not playing no Last Poets or Watch Prophets or anything like that. They just playing like the stuff that makes you think about police dogs and hoses and getting the crap beat out of you at a march and a rally. And then right after that, the skinny jean thing comes. And I'm like, yeah, I see what this is. This is because as soon as I saw the skinny jean, I said, you can't hide no gun in those things. It's the first thing I thought. You can't put a gun in those pants, and you definitely can't run or fight in them. So now you got this music that's taking me back to the 60s and 70s, and now you got me waddling down the freaking street. And, because that's when the whole, like, oversized T-shirt thing started to stop. Because oversized T-shirt, you could put a assault rifle on that. Nobody could see. Because brothers was walking around with the big T-shirts, huge hats, just looking like penguins, just waddling down the street. Now they were still, it looked ridiculous, but I'm just saying, but at least you could move around. Now with the skinny jeans, it was like, yeah, you can't even lift your leg. You couldn't knee somebody in the face. You couldn't run if a cop was behind you. You definitely can't hide a pistol on you with that. You can't put a pistol in your boot, because that was the old school we used to do. We take a little 22. If you was wearing Timberland boots, you could fit the whole thing down in the boot, no problem. You can't do any of that anymore now. So I'm just saying, with the art, the movies, the music, look at the larger political statement that's being made. And, that will kind of tell you what direction it's going. Because like I said, yeah, when the studio greenlights something, it's never for your good. Anything that the dominant society imprints is always for your destruction. It's never for your health.
So even if when people say like they're tired of watching slavery movies and they're tired of watching that, how much of that though would that be a balance of, okay, don't forget about it, but then how much of it, kind of what you said, the side A, they're trying to bring you back to a time now where you keep reliving it? Whereas, then some people try to use the argument of, well, they keep replaying the Holocaust, and they don't seem to have issues with it. Mm-hmm. So what is the big problem?
Well, keep in mind, you're talking about two different things. Those Holocaust movies are fake. That's the first thing to understand. They're fake. They're over dramatized. The Holocaust didn't happen like that. They never show you never, in any of those movies, rewind them, you never see the beginning of the Holocaust. You never see who actually funded Hitler. You never see the real cooperation of the so-called Jews in that whole process. You also never see any black people in the ovens. See, so you're looking at false stories. When you actually study the history of the Holocaust, where they keep throwing out that what is it, 6 million people or 66 million, it was nowhere near that. You know what I mean? When you really study it. So you're looking at a fairy tale, and it's a politicized fairy tale for the purposes of economic empowerment, which in fact makes it genius. It's genius. When you can have people pay you for, you got governments paying them for a Holocaust that they had nothing to do with. You know what I mean? We have Holocaust museums here in the United States. It didn't happen here. But they got money for the museum, and they have an annual operating budget that they're given. And it didn't even happen. That was genius. Come on. Like that's some Bugsy Siegel, Meyer Lansky stuff. Like that's gangster. Like, people want to know what gangster, that's gangster. Like, yo, this happened to me. It wasn't really that big a deal. Like I was over here, somebody sliced me on my elbow with a razor, but you're going to give me the payment as if somebody shot my face off. For the next 500 years, you're going to do that. That's gangster. You know what I mean? So you got to kind of look at it like it really is. And then when you look at the slave movies, it's like this. When people are saying like, well, the story needs to be told. Well, look at it from this sense. Do you want, I don't know, we'll pick any fool of the day. Do you want Future, let's say, or Casanova? You want Future, Casanova? Pick any one of them. Uncle Murder. Do you want them to teach your little daughter about how to have sex, or do you want to teach them?
I would rather be the one.
I would think so. So now look at the slave movies like that. You see what I'm saying? It's like, you ain't telling the story like it's supposed to. You giving me Django. You giving me a cartoon, Django, which was a real slick cartoon. Because that's all it really was. It was a cartoon. That's not teaching youth about slavery. This freaking cartoon and nah. You know what I mean? Sure, I grew up in the era of Roots, and Roots was great. I loved watching Roots, but it wasn't real. You know what I mean? So again, there's always an agenda. There's always a motive. So even when you watch these slave films, and I don't watch a preponderance of them because I know the game, you know what I mean? But when you watch them, there's always, again, there's an element when you look at it and you say, oh, it's good. But even Birth of a Nation, I love Birth of a Nation. But then I'm looking at the interviews, and Nate Park in every interview is like, I thank Jesus Christ for allowing me. I'm like, see, there we go. So I don't want you, I'm still support. If he does another movie, I'm going to support it. Absolutely. And I love Uncle Murder, so I listen to that music. However, when it comes time to teach my sons or my daughters for that matter, how to handle a pistol, or how to select certain things or even about sexuality and teaching my sons how to mack a woman, I'll handle that. I'll do that. Because I know how I'm gonna deliver it in a way so that it economically, politically, socially, and culturally empowers my homestead. I'm not gonna deliver it in a way where it actually disempowers us. Like we look at Django and we see, okay, the first kill that he even made in the movie, he was given permission to by his white surrogate master when he said, the pleasure's all yours. He said, be my guest. Now, it was subtle. You had to pick up on it. When he said, be my guest, he's giving him permission to reclaim his dignity. You know what I mean? So it's little slick, and it was a whole lot of slick things in that film. It was slick things all throughout, but you got to have the eye to catch it. You know, so like I hear the story needs to be told, but that ain't the story. You know, that ain't the story.
Mm-hmm. How much of the story then does kind of like with the I remember a caller had called in and was just speaking and kind of romanticizing about, you know, the pyramids and doing this and doing that. How dangerous then is that when one starts to romanticize of, you know, this and this is what we did. Yeah, that's what they did. You didn't do that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I can't say it's dangerous. I could just say that it's gay. You know, that's real gay. You know, you're looking at another man's accomplishments and you jock riding. We mean is we. You know what I'm saying? I know brothers who talk that who don't even own a toolbox. So what was you building? You know, don't know any mathematics beyond multiplication. What were you building? You know what I mean? So the romanticizing of it is absolutely a tool for disempowerment. Absolutely, it's a tool for disempowerment. You know, and even to localize yourself to a certain space. If you're going to call yourself an African, sure, take that, but go all around the continent and look at all the things you did, all of the great triumphs and beautiful things that you did, and all of the ass backwards things that you did that got you messed up and defeated. Look at all of it. You know what I mean? But just to look at the most exotic and most, what we could say almost sterilized presentation. Because for many people, Kemet represents the sterilized version of Africa. Because you know, you're not seeing the drums and the big booty women and the big huge breasts all over the place dancing around and the chickens and the screaming and the yelling and the blood. You know, all that real big mama stuff. You're not really that bush baby stuff. You know, not to say it didn't exist there, but that's not what was shown by time all of the Egyptologists of past came back and transcribed it to us. They gave us a very sterile, cleaned up, we can put it in a museum type of representation. You know, and then so that's what I'm just saying. Like sometimes, and I know it can be hurtful and it can maybe even upset people to hear me say something like that. You know, but you just jock riding. You know, if we did all of that, let's do it again, or let's do it better than what we did. You know, the truth is to believe that you had all of that greatness and all of that control and cultivation of the great melanin genius, and to believe that you had that then, and nowadays you don't, but your babies are still coming out the same, is stupid. Your babies not coming out the same like they were back then. So the we has changed. You got children now who don't even have rhythm. Black children. Like, that's crazy. Don't even have rhythm because so many years now they've become mutated. You know, so, and again, I'm not taking away anything, because obviously you look at what I teach. You know, I teach ancestral wisdom, but I'm also acknowledging that there are valleys and peaks to everyone's timeline. And Kemet wasn't even our peak. That wasn't even our peak of development. So many people forget that Kemet was a colony. You know, you have to look at the whole Nile Valley region, the whole Nile Valley civilization. But, you know, again, we zero in on certain things because they're long standing, and it's hard to prove if we, and when I say we, diasporic Africans had anything to do with it. So we just claim that, you know, but we don't claim things in Gabon or Gambia or Swaziland. You know, if you look at, again, our culture, we don't even bring those places up. You know, or Morocco, we don't bring that up. Like Eritrea, let's take these little small countries on the side that nobody really talks about. You know, we don't claim things from those places. Why is that? Now, a part of that is because it's the electronic leash. You know, we'll talk about Medu all day. We'll talk about that all day. But who speaks Medu? Just conscious people in America. Why don't we learn the languages of power? Why don't we look at who has the power on the planet right now and learn their language? That would seem to be a more intelligent move. We could still learn. I mean, you can know 5 or 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different languages, but why don't we learn the languages of power? We want to learn all the dead stuff that was left behind. We want to learn all that stuff. We look at civilizations where the people have disappeared or whatever, and we say, well, that's what we want to learn. What is the reason they left it behind? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. There's a reason we don't do that anymore. Back in the 80s, it was a group called JJ Fad that came out. And when JJ Fad came out, like, everybody was wearing spandex. Even dudes was wearing biker shorts and spandex. You know, and fanny packs. You know, we don't do that anymore. I mean, I don't think that's ever going to come back. Biker shorts and fanny packs on big giant black men. It just wasn't a good look. Even back then, I mean, I didn't wear any mess like that. Back then, I looked at it, I was like, nah, man. I mean, my uncle used to wear that. I'm like, man, I see your entire genitals, everything, the outline, the mushroom head, everything. Like, this is not something you should wear, Unc. You know, he thinking he's covering it with the fanny pack, but he's endowed. So we don't wear that anymore. You see, some things you got to learn. Right. They were part of a trial and error procedure, and you would know that if you were actually applying and directing yourself into these things. You know, if you were actually building, you know, like I said, when you go to the continent, there's one culture, many ethnic groups in one culture. Are we continuing that culture, or have we sacrificed it for the values of romanticism? And again, the romantic aspects, we're not Romans. So, you know, romanticism and flattery are very similar. They're based on ambition to manipulate someone. So you romanticize in order to manipulate. You compliment and flatter in order to manipulate. You know, but it's based on fairy tale. Mm. You know.
Mm-hmm.
So,
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
With that, let me stop.
No, it's all good. I understand. It's a rabbit hole type of type of discussion, type of idea. And it's a dangerous one because, I mean, I'm sure there's people now who are like, I'm never going to listen to this man again. You know, he disrespecting the ancestors. But, you know, part of our problem too as a people, we don't listen very well. You know, like that's one of the things that we should pause everything for maybe 3 years. And I'm saying as a conscious move, as a black liberation movement, just pump the brakes for about 3 years and learn listening comprehension and critical thinking skills. Just stop everything. Just for a minute. I mean, you could still wear the RBG shirts and all of that. You could do all of that. But just for a moment, we just need to learn how to listen, because that's keeping us from so many different things. Not knowing how to listen. We don't know how to distinguish voices. We don't know how to distinguish between what we're feeling and what someone is actually saying. And then we go off to the right because a lot of us have been so effeminized. And I'm saying, I'm talking to the men. We still got the muscles and the aggression of men, but we have the emotional control of 11-year-old girls. And if anyone has ever raised girls, they're at their worst. Between 8 and 11, they're horrible to be around. 11 is when they come out of it, but at 8, you just look at them like, you know what? Sometimes I think I hate my children. Around that 8, most kids are pretty horrible around 8. 8 to 9, they just get this little funky way about them, you know. And then they come out of it when they get ready to go to middle school and everything. But you know, a lot of us are moving with that type of emotional control and development. We just need to take a couple of years to learn how to listen and also learn how to critically think. And I'm telling you, it would propel this whole movement towards liberation ahead hundreds of years if we could just do that. You know, so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a wrap. Like, because even that show that you're talking about with that brother, he just wasn't listening. He wasn't listening to what was being said, and he was being super emotional. And it turned what could have been a productive conversation into literally, it sounded like a discussion in the mess hall of an insane asylum. You know, I'm just going to make up something. This ain't Kemet against Europe. Nobody said that. Like, that doesn't even, you making up stuff now. And Sometimes we don't know how to listen to a person's crazy. So somebody will say something and we fall under the assumption that what they're saying is valid. We don't know how to put the brakes and say, wait a minute, what you just said doesn't make any sense. Where's this coming from? This is not coming from this discussion. You coming out of left field. And sometimes we also don't know how to pull rank and say, you know what? You're not ready for this discussion. You're not even ready to talk to me right now. You're basically, you're not at my level. So what you need to do is sit down and listen for a little bit. And because we don't really have that love between each other, it's hard for us to say things like that to one another without totally burning the bridges between each other. But sometimes that's the answer. Sometimes somebody's saying something really stupid or really, and I say stupid, not dumb. Stupid like they know better, but they're not doing better. That's the difference between dumb and stupid. If you're dumb, you just don't know. That's different. But sometimes that's the case, or they're not listening to what's really going on because they have this egoic need to grandstand. Like that individual, and I hate to be like kicking his brother's back in like this, but he was grandstanding. You call a line and, well, this is what we need to do, and this is what we did. Law number 9 of 48 laws of power, man. Convince through your argument, not through argument, or your point, not through argument, but through action. Don't sit here and try to argue me down to nod my head and say that's true. Show me that's true. And I'm not not promoting the 48 laws of power because they're kind of devilish too, but some of them do make some sense, And that's why I said even before, a long time ago when the debates came out, I was like, yo, a better debate would be a demonstration of philosophy and a demonstration of your actual theory. So instead of sitting here trying to convince me verbally with the slideshows, literally like do whatever you say your way is. And if you're saying it's better than my way, actually do it. And let's compare the results from each other's efforts. That would be a better debate to me. Let's show them, and you can make a whole documentary around it. Okay, we did it this way and we were able to do this. Show me some metrics based on what you're doing right now, instead of showing me a slideshow about a pyramid 10, 15, 20,000 years ago and saying, well, we had this family, we was doing, let me not do it because y'all think I'm making fun of somebody, but we was doing it like this, we was doing it like that, and then the other person saying, well, no, our forefathers and foremothers did like this, did like, come on, man, that's, like I said, that's gay. You jock riding. Do your own thing. What's popping today? What can you prove? What can you show and prove and manifest today? And use that as your debate substance, as your debate fodder. Not your words, because your words don't even have the compulsion of your ancestors standing behind them. That's why you got to yell and use so much profanity, because there's no weight on them. That's why you listen to Rakim back in the days. Rakim never used profanity in his rhymes, but he was one of the hardest rappers out because he was talking with the spirit of his Egun coming through him. It's a different thing. It's a whole different vibe that you project outwards.
90 seconds.
Oh, we're getting ready to go in the archives, like, everyone. Right. Go ahead. I'm listening, brother.
That's like then one building their whole world off of self-worth instead of really building off of self-esteem. And then when somebody coming and poking at it, saying, okay, well, let me see what you really are doing here. And seeing this outfit that you presented yourself as, a wolf, now we starting to see you ain't really a wolf.
Right.
Is that kind of what that is coming from?
Yeah.
Like 60 seconds.
The whole reality off of self-worth?
Yeah, to a degree.
Like a fantasy?
Yeah, that's kind of like the show I did on quality versus substance. They're basing it off
self-esteem.
Yeah, and the self-esteem was highly necessary for us at a certain time in our development, and that was one of the beauties of our elder teachers who came through, like Dr. Ben, Dr. Clark, Asa Hilliard, Ivan Van Sertima, all of these great researchers who came through and let us know that we had a serious and critical hand in the world timeline development, which we weren't being told up until that point. So that built up the self-esteem, but unfortunately, a lot of us got stuck in that space. 10 seconds, everyone. We're going into archives. I'm going to keep going over the archives, just so you know. So if you're not called in, call in at 515-605-9862, or you can continue on the YouTube stream, and we're still here. But again, we kind of got stuck in that mode, of still trying to find things to compensate for the insecurity that we had, or have. And again, so then when we have young people, because I work with a lot of young people, and I always will have parents and things who will say, "Oh, you should show them the pictures of this and show them that we did this and we did that." And I try to tell them that was your problem. These young people today have an inflated sense of self-worth. We need to bring them back down a little bit. The things that they're proud about now, they shouldn't be proud about. Back then, maybe when we were younger, we didn't have anything to be proud about. We didn't do nothing right. We didn't even have S curls out yet. So your hair was nappy, your hair's nappy, your legs are bony. It's like, the father from Color Purple. Wasn't nothing right with us. Now these young people, if they get a phone, like, look at my phone, I got a pair of J's. I'm just like, everything is like, I'm that dude, or I'm that sister, so it's a different kind of instruction that we need nowadays. And a lot of it is, okay, you feel that way about yourself, cool, no problem, you can have that. Can you show and prove it now? And what we don't have with a lot of our young people today is the follow through and the ability to thug things out. Once things get hard, they want to quit. So that's a whole different type of animal that you're speaking to. When I say animal, I'm talking about that lower nature. That's a totally different animal that's now come to the forefront. It's not the animal that doesn't feel like they're not worth anything, or they have, and not to say you still have people with low self-esteem who feel worthless. Absolutely. That's still, a norm. I'm sure you had that 10,000 years ago. You had people who had low self-esteem, but it's not the norm that it was 40 years ago or 30 years ago. So we got the material that got us to that point, and now the world is a much smaller place due to social media. So we even know that everyone in Africa is now living in huts, walking around naked with flies on their faces. That was the common perception up until recent, up until maybe 15, 20 years ago. You had a lot of people who still thought that. Prior to Instagram, YouTube, Snap, all these different things, and even the explosion of the Nollywood whole thing, so now we have to know when it's time to adjust. Okay, so now we got to come from another angle. We got that covered. What do we need now? And it's like you got some people who are always like 15 steps behind. That's part of the problem. You got people saying we need our own banks. We need black banks. And you're seeing the banking industry crumble. You know what I mean? Like, no, you don't need black banks. We need a different way to handle black economic empower. Absolutely. But banks are not what we've used or what we should use. We have to stop following behind someone else's decrepit system. That's part of the problem. So. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I didn't wore you out.
No, it's cool. Yeah, not a problem.
Oh,
not a problem, my brother.
Oh,
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome, brother. For sure. Yeah, like I said, that's a rabbit hole discussion to get into, and I know that it's a very polarizing one. And at this point, based on some of the strenuous conditions that we've placed ourselves into, we have to be less concerned about alienating people from us and from our mission and our cause, because those who are really with you and see the vibrational strands that exist between you two will come along. That's kind of what I was going to speak about a little bit today. I had this idea that popped into my psyche a little earlier, and I was thinking about compassion and more importantly, thinking about how sometimes we don't know what compassion is, but sometimes we don't understand what comes dualistically with the vibrations of compassion or just different things. Like I was speaking to someone and we were speaking about the dispositions of different spiritual energies, and I was saying, yeah, you know, you could go through the whole Orisha pantheon and you'll see a bunch of crazy people. Everybody's crazy, you know, and there's a beauty to them, and there's a crazy to them. So even in what I'm speaking about, in the sense that someone say, I'm a child of this one or I'm a child of that one, and I was explaining like, yeah, that there's always something with each of them. There's always some type of lunacy, you know. Like for instance, I was talking in this instance about children who are almost Shango. Children of Shango, especially the boys, girls too, but they have some of the worst luck in love relationships. Now, we never really look at that because we always look at Shango like, oh, the lover, the party goer, this, that, or the party, not the party goer, the party when they show up. And sometimes we don't realize that there's another side of that too. And part of the other side of that is their intensity when it comes to relationships. And a lot of times they take people a lot more seriously than those people take themselves. And as a result, they end up getting their feelings hurt a lot. And the thing about Shangos when it comes to relationships, you can't tell them anything. They're not trying to hear it. Once they decide that I love this person or I like this one, I like that one, that's it. You just got to ride it out. And that starts very young, 10, 11, 12, 13. It doesn't really stop. So that's why a lot of times you'll see like men of Shango have a lot of children by a lot of different women. They wanted to be with each of those women. It just didn't work out because they're very hard-headed when it comes to relationships. They learn the hard way, you know, but then there's a beauty about them. They're exciting, this, that. So each energy has something where you can say, yeah, you're crazy. You know, so I'm going to bring this call in real quick, and then I'm going to continue on what I'm talking about. 813.
Hey, Chief.
Hey, peace, brother.
Greetings, Chief. Greetings. Good day, brother.
Good day.
Yeah, I was just commenting on what you guys were just getting into, you and Brother Zach, about, I'm walking too, I don't know if there's too much background, so
it's okay, we got you.
But, yeah, I'll stand still. How's that? You know how,
I'm going to stand still in the wind.
Yeah, I'm standing still. Hopefully this works better.
I was going to say, yeah, it sounds like you're standing still in the wind. But it's okay. It's all good.
Yeah, I know, right? But I'm also by the road. Let me see if I can find a better place.
No, it's all right, brother. But, come with it. It's cool. Yeah.
Just to go into it is the difference. When strategizing, because I'm in this stage right now, so I'm sharing especially with this conversation you guys had. You opened up a lot of light for me. Strategizing your lower nature to your higher nature, right? Mm-hmm. And not following the crowd. Once again, being that turkey out of the flock. Those are the things that you got to pay attention to. Something that got clear to me just recently is to go with what you're good at, and go with what you know. Besides the all the extracurricular information that you might get and all the knowledge that you might have obtained, go with what you know and be very secure and confident on side of those. It's usually the soul that's speaking to you when you're moving in the right direction. You know, so when it starts yelling at you and you start completely kind of crying about the situations that throw you off, that's how you know you're not in your nia, your purpose. That's when when your higher self is complaining about how your lower self is. So strategizing, as I'm listening, I'm thinking about ways to strategize in my own situations. So it's been a very good conversation. I would like to give thanks too.
For sure. Yeah, strategy is critical, going beyond the brute force. You know, there's a time, that's why Shango is white and red. You know, he's got the strategy or the woo. You all right, brother? Okay.
Yeah, I'm all right. I'm all right. I'm all right. I'll just put it on mute while you're talking.
All right. I heard it sound like
man,
somebody
boy,
pulled his shirt over
boy.
his head or something. I know we got in a fight or something. Okay. All right. Okay, cool. Yeah, I guess he's out. Well, he's out working. He's doing his thing. But yeah, it's that white creative problem solving of Obatala, which Oyas also have that. They can be very creative and problem solving when they're living in their hell. I mean, their heaven. When they're in their hell, they're just a mess. They just yell and scream, don't listen. You know, just horrible to be around. Just real combative for no reason. You know, you always see there's a dualistic nature there, which teaches you a lot about the particular energy. But real quick, something I was going to share, and I'll probably do a part 2 on this tomorrow. But I was thinking in terms of just in terms of how we a lot of times can't spot when people are being compassionate or when people are being generous and giving with us, and we confuse it with something else, or sometimes we're so absorbed in our persistent misery that we can't really see a lot of times when someone's looking out for us, or, you know, just in a simple sense. And, you know, a lot of times this occurs because we've not really understood or lost the concept of parental love or motherly love. We don't really have an idea of what that is. And I know it seems like, well, how is one connected to the other? Well, essentially, there's a process that occurs between mother, and I'm saying particular mother, not just father, but significantly mother and child. And each relationship between mother and child or father and child gives the child, this kind of goes back to Brother Zach's question earlier about what level is the battle being waged on. You're able to perceive things by the actual existence of cognition that you receive through either parent. Like, for instance, your parents will acclimate you to the world in many senses, but different aspects of the world your parents will acclimate you to. So a lot of times that paternal energy will acclimate you to the social aspects of the world as handed down to the mother. So your mother will say, talk this way, do that, do that, do that. But it's because she's receiving that earthly instruction from her man. You know, that's the order of instruction as it pertains to social or secular acclimation. You know, wear this color or this, that, whatever it is, wear these type of shoes, shake a hand this way, look a person in the eye, don't look a person in the eye, so forth and so on. And we learn more of our spiritual or our fluidity, our abstract fluidity, through that maternal or that matriarchal principle. That's why I did a show some time ago about matriarchy and patriarchy. A lot of times you hear people, especially feminists, speak against patriarchy. And you may not hear people speak against matriarchy so much because it's not a dominant system. But the truth is, there's a space for patriarchy and there's a space for matriarchy. It's just because we live in such a divisive environment and a divisive social structure, we don't know how to work things together. You know, we don't know how to understand that, okay, there's a time that the man is going to be the boss and there's a time that the woman's going to be a boss, but they're not necessarily changing places. Like, there's never a time in my life that a woman is going to be my boss. I'm never taking direction from a woman. That's me, Chief Yuya, speaking. Now, is there a time that women in my life are bosses or can be bosses? Absolutely. I want them to be bosses, but you ain't going to boss me. You know, so there's a space for it, you know, when you start to look at the line of things and the lineage of how things come down, you know, from father to mother to child, in terms of, again, earthly social acclimation. As I've said many times, this is a man's world. Heaven is the woman's world. So looking at the discrepancy between religion and spirituality, for instance, you're looking at the discrepancy between male and female. It's the father that's going to give you your religious structures. It's the mother that's going to give you your spiritual structures. And both of them are necessary because one teaches you order and one teaches you fluidity. One gives you religion, one gives you spirit. One gives you logic, one gives you the abstract. So the problem is, a lot of times what we end up doing is we take the whole of existence and we make it all worldly. We make it all masculine in a sense. So the idea of secularized existence, it begins to create a division between cosmic order, like Ma'at, and the cosmic principles of love, like Heteru. And we think that you have to have one or the other. So we'll say things like, okay, there's a phrase I used to always hear I thought sounded stupid when I was, I still do. Father-in-law, or mother-in-law, or son-in-law. So you're my father, you're my mother, you're my son because the law says so. So I used to hear some people say this is, well, I said it, and I don't know if I gave it to the person to say, or if it's just something that people come up with. I don't remember. But mother in love, father in love, son in love. And it's this idea that it has to be either or. And the thing is, there's a combination of the two. And when those patriarchal or matriarchal concepts come together, they create truth. Because in fact, truth is the cosmic equation between law and love. So when you bring cosmic law, Ma'at and Heteru, love, unconditional love together, you get truth. And like I said earlier, when we were speaking about ideas of truth that people watching in movies and stuff, just because you love something, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to always adhere to it. And that's where a lot of people get confused at in terms of their pursuits for information and wanting love in their lives and things like that. Just because you have a pursuit or a desire for love doesn't mean that you're always going to adhere to the laws and the sciences of love. And a lot of times this comes because we didn't have a healthy fourth trimester as children. And what is the fourth trimester? That's basically those like first 3 months after you come out of your mother's womb. Because remember, while we all have our chakra systems that are inside of us. And the specialness of the chakra exchange between mother and child is that it's an actual physical exchange. We have our navel chakra, or what sometimes some will even call the sacral chakra, but usually the yoni or the lingam area is the sacral chakra, the navel, and then you have the navel. But there's a direct connection between that mother's sacral chakra and the child's navel chakra. Okay, so there's a combining of those two chakras together physically. And then once the child is born and the umbilical is cut and everything like that, there's still an energetic link that exists between the two of them. And what that mother is doing is really teaching that science of oneness between the two of them. That's why I always warn, and a lot of you sisters who are hyper concerned about the condition of your children, you have children who are doing things that you consider to not be acceptable or they're not conscious. And I always say, where the water goes, the fish follow. So if you get yourself together, your children will come along with you. And I know it's a scary thing as a parent, and I know, but if you recognize that you're always going to have a chakra link, it's like a meridian, it's like an energy line between you and your child, coming from your sacral chakra, going to that child's solar chakra, their sense of identity. Because remember, your solar chakra is where you eject out your sense of identity. Okay. Your sacral chakra, which is really the chakra of self, is where you start going into that place where you're sitting in the seat of yourself, of your true self. And then it projects out through that navel chakra. Okay, it projects outward. So if you understand that, and if that linkage is nurtured and kept in proper play and in proper place, and of course that happens when a child is in the room, don't get me wrong, that there's that physical cord linkage, but then there's also an energetic cord linkage. But a lot of times, once the child births itself into the world, we don't feed the intensity of that link, and it starts to lessen. We feel less of that connection physically and psychologically, and the child becomes more independent in many different ways. And there's a certain voicing, there's a certain feeling that comes through that linkage that we hear in a mother's tone to child. Like, if you want to know what compassion and love is, listen to a mother talk to their child when the child is very young. It's not something that you can, it's not like something that you can create sheet music for, that you can transcribe. There's an energy pulsation that's created that's otherworldly, because it's coming from the soul, and the soul doesn't live on this world. The soul is an off-world base or installation. Okay, we're just pods, escape pods. So there's an energy that comes between that vibration between mother and child. And I'm actually going to dig into this more tomorrow, because we actually got off onto some other subjects a bit more. But I want to really talk about that. For those, and I know a lot of people, especially conscious people, don't have the best relationships with their parents, because a lot of times the parents almost feel like there's been a betrayal of identity when you've decided to do something else, or maybe vice versa. When you're awakened to certain energetic connections that you have with the environment, and your parents haven't really learned the art of parenting, so they don't really understand that connection that functions to keep you alive is something that they should be protecting. So we end up kind of forming a little bit of a resentment, and we lose even some of our stability, because what happens is our root chakra doesn't develop properly. I'll get into that. When your root chakra doesn't develop properly, because you lose the compassion between parent and child, we lose our stability for life. So then we go through life just not being able to put our foot down. We can't root. We just have so much trouble rooting and forming a base. And a lot of times we don't realize it goes all the way back to that umbilical cord. We don't realize sometimes the connection between them. But I'm going to dig into that tomorrow. I'm going to do a part 2. Tomorrow is late night segment, so it'll be even better to talk about the feminine stuff. So we'll be on tomorrow. Tomorrow's Wednesday, 9 p.m. Eastern. And we're going to dig deeper into the concept of the matriarchal principle as it relates to motherly love. All right, so make sure you all call in then. We can chop it up, discuss it, think about the concept and the idea before tomorrow evening. All right, peace.
Thank you